Hey, what is up, everyone? It is Rich. Good morning. It is Thursday, I think, and we're gonna look at Akira, Otomo. I started that Marvel UK sort of run, and I'm gonna do Gary Frank, but I just on a whim this morning, I was like, I want to look at some black and white Otomo. There's a few reasons, but one, I didn't realize it at the time, but throughout my career, one thing that I've always circled back to is my admiration and I think that like Akira kind of had a profound effect on me, and I don't really totally understand it. I can kind of try to reverse engineer probably what spurred it on. I think initially I was a huge fan of an artist named Aaron Weisenfeld, and Aaron combined a lot of things that at the time I was either learning about or probably was aware of, but he was into things like Jorge Safino. He obviously came up through continuity as a very young artist, but he did work with Neil Adams probably in his teens. And he was into Mignola, Mobius, and Otomo, among other things. I think his attention to detail and backgrounds really had an impact on me, it's just one of those things where then he and Richard Bennett kind of turned me on to like different they had what do you call it, laser discs at the time, which were super like cutting edge, and I was like, man, these guys are like rock stars. They work for Image Comics. I had just gotten hired, but they had apartments with original art. Both of them owned Mignola Legends of the Dark Knight Batman pages, which was super crazy to see in person. But yeah, and so I think it always like that really had a big impact on me. I remember for years when I would fantasize about drawing comic books. Aaron was always in the mix, and to me, Aaron is like a child of Otomo, not across the board, but it's just in there. And then as I started to get into Akira and Otomo on my own, what I realized is there's a brilliance to the work, and you have to understand is I've been a fan of comics, I've been a professional in comics, and comics is very laborious. It takes a long time. I'm just going to go into full screen mode. I don't need to. But comics is very time consuming. And one thing that Otomo does, and look, I know that he uses assistants for backgrounds, but I'm going to, in a fantasy world, I'm going to paint a picture that if you're one artist and you're attempting to do something like this, what's brilliant about the style is the background sets the tone, it sets the mood, it's the world that these characters exist in. And what I love about it is how simple the characters are overall. These aren't like, I wouldn't call these low detail characters in particular on this page, but there's less detail, and so it's like a cartoon where, like, if you watch an old like Scooby-Doo cartoon or something like that, you've got these beautiful matte painted backgrounds, and then these very simple characters work through the scenes. I had seen it with a Carlos Meglia comic too that had a very elaborate city scene. It was a book called Cyber Six, and yeah, just a combination of different things, and it's always kind of been how I sort of think comics works well. And this is a very detailed piece. And again, we don't know, looking at Otomo's work in a piece like this, really how much he did on this. He may have done a lot of it, and he may have done very little. I really don't know, and it's kind of not the point of the video. But I just want people to be aware that I'm aware that someone like Otomo was using assistants. This is from the second black and white book. This is the first time that I think I've ever done black and white Akira, to be clear too. I've had so many people wanting black and white version of Blasterkid, and so I thought I would turn the channel to focus on some black and white art that I think is awesome for a few days. And we can explore it. It gives me an opportunity to look at it and just kind of get the vibe in my mind. I've talked about this before. I never draw with comic books out, so although I may use reference in some of my pieces, it's never comic book reference. Never, like zero. I don't even really know where comics are in my office. I have a small stack on like a bookshelf, but I just refuse to have a comic book out while I draw my work. I mean, I can do a video like this and kind of soak in things, and you know, like put good things in my head. This in particular, it's not this exact shot, but there's another one that he uses with a very similar like sloping. It's like a platform that sort of like this thing could like ride down. It's one of my favorite shots in the whole series, and I don't know why it is. I'm not even sure if it's in this batch of pages, but this is it's similar to this. It's probably the same area, and yeah, there's just so much good shit in this, and this is very very detailed. I would say that these characters at this point right here are there's a lot going on with them. These are not simple characters to draw. So hey, don't mess with my Cintiq. Got a cat enjoying the sunshine, but my Cintiq, I don't really have my Cintiq set up right now. Don't. It's funny because this is the cat that I'm talking to right now is not the one that talks. This is my more quiet cat. Uh, she's got a very different personality than the chatty one. All right, let's continue, friends. Yeah, but I was really excited to look at this, and like I said, I've had just such a good response to the black and white art that I'm sharing. I think it's unique. I don't think that there's in American comics there's really anyone doing anything like me, and that's exciting. You know, I didn't intentionally set out to do it. It's just my taste, but you know, I have a Patreon. I have people that are trying to get work and do work in comics and stuff like that, and I mean. One thing that, you know, there's two routes that people will take sometimes to get work, which is you do like a house style, meaning that like if Marvel like loves a certain thing, you sort of acclimate to that, and then one you could get really really good and be different. Like although it's a very different style, it's like Marvel stop playing with the chords. Marvel hired Scotty Young, you know, but how many Scotty Youngs is a company like Marvel going to hire? You know. 2 or 3 maybe, and Scotty kind of was fortuitous enough to bring it in kind of first to them. So you know, it's one of those things. If you can do something unique and get a combination of aesthetics together that stand out, then you stand out. You know, I mean that's really what people want to see is they want to see you draw and you be creative. And it doesn't mean that it's influence-less. It just means that you've blended. It looks like Kim Jong-ji. You've blended things together in a unique way. Your Jamba Juice is the special flavor of the month. So go out and create your Jamba Juice. All right, let's continue. All right. The pattern on these guys close. I apologize that these aren't the highest res scans, but it is what it is. But I would guess that that's some sort of a screen tone that they're laying down. You could stipple it. I mean, I've done stuff that crazy before, but it's not very wise. The other thing that's interesting too is I was curious of how much like screen tone that they use. So far, it's been pretty minimal. A little bit sometimes in the background. I mean, I definitely think that it helps things pop. Like when this is a great example too. I was just gonna say something like this. If you have to do, so that's such a weird coincidence. Because I was thinking about a piece that I had, and I was like, man, I'm like without color, you wouldn't see the I mean, I could draw the energy burst, meaning that if it was a white background and I had to draw lightning, I could literally draw lightning with a pen and have it there. But it's really not the effect that you want. But this is a good example of where something like a screen tone comes in handy, where you can either lay down a flat color of gray or a gradient, meaning that it goes from a certain shade of gray, maybe fading to white. And then you would put like white paint over it, and it's really really beautiful. I love the sound effect in here, and that sound effect is highly unlikely that it was in English, so or whatever you want to call it, like American text. So these are new things. It's actually, you know, I'll be honest, it's pretty incredible that this stuff wasn't lettered on the board based on the time frame that Akira was originally drawn. Now I don't know. I'm gonna guess that they did it as layovers on the original book, because if Otomo had done sound effects on the original boards, or had someone a lot of times, so what from what I had seen, and it was really kind of phasing out as I was breaking in, when stuff would get lettered on the boards, essentially what would happen is the penciler would draw it, and then send it to the letterer, and the letterer would letter it, and then it would come to the inker. And I did a couple of jobs like that, but very, very few. But I do have stuff lettered on the actual board. But if that would have been done in this case, and then these pieces would have been inked, they would have had to have gone in and done stats of all of this shit, meaning that they would have had to remove the Japanese fonts and then redraw around it to put the art back in for this American version. Now, they may have done it. It's possible. You know, again, if Otomo has assistance, they could have just said, look, for the next 4 months, you guys are going to remove all the word balloons, not literally off the pages, but we're going to take that part out, and you're going to redraw around it. And it's possible that that's what was done. You know, sounds crazy, but you hire 12 people and have them work 8 or 9 hours a day doing it, you'd get it done. You would get it done. So this is great. But yeah, this to me is just like perfect comic art. Whether you like the aesthetic or not, I think that the level of detail and stuff like this. Well, and here's another interesting thing that I talk about, and I talked about in the Hitch video. It's not that I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's like I rarely shade faces too much. And going back to like this, and there's a little bit of a light source on this face right here, but he doesn't really put like huge cast shadows on faces. And it's possible me kind of reverse engineering why I do the things that I do, because I don't know. It could be because of stuff like this. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have some huge black shadow like running across his face here. But I can't be sure why I don't. It just never looks right to me if I do it on my own work. But I think that there's circumstances where it could. This is a great panel. I love shit like this. This was something that Will Portacio told me one time, and I think it's an interesting thing. And it's, you don't see it exactly here, but Will said to me one time, this was before I was penciling, but he was always very, very helpful, and would like when I would go, oh, you know, I'm interested in trying to learn to pencil better, he would always like sit down and he'd give me as much time as you know, he would just sit and tell you like anything that you would want to try to learn. He would say, like, you know, if you establish a background well on one panel or on one page, at that point you really don't need to draw it that much again. And so that's another thing that you could maybe like look for in comic books, is like he establishes where they're at in this panel, and then the rest of it he really doesn't have to show it, you know. Now, if you're more inexperienced, it might not be as smooth or as like well done. This is great. Oh my god. This is one of those moments where you go, like, this original art is somewhere right now sitting in like probably a file cabinet or something like that, and it's just crazy to me. Like, this would be so badass to own. Oh, that's so cool. Akira! Oh yeah. This is fun. I'm super happy that I picked this, and people have been recommending stuff. Please continue to do it. I love reading all the recommendations. When I have time, I always will go and Google the artists, and then I just kind of go like, you know, where does this fit into the scheme of things on the YouTube channel? Like, when could I fit it in? I do try to work in chunks and themes. I'm going a little out of order this week, but I'm also trying to get momentum going again. I just haven't really been in the mood to do like book review videos, so I'm kind of trying to warm up to it again. I don't dislike doing them, to be clear. It's just I'm focused on what I'm up to, and so like, again, probably the same reason that I don't have comic books out when I draw is the same reason that I don't really like looking at comics when I'm drawing. Is you don't want it to be in your head if you're you're carving out your vision, and then if I look at something, now all of a sudden I've got like again, it could, you know, sometimes I do book reviews of stuff that I'm not that into. I mean, I think it's good art, but it's not anything that I would do personally in my own work. And then you've got that running around in your head. And again, whether you like it or not, if it's not your style, it's like, I don't want it intruding in my my master plan. All right, let's go. it was interesting because as I was looking for this, I have all these phone books. I bought the whole set. I actually really wish that I would have bought. They did like a hardcover set a few years ago. I just didn't have the money for it at the time, but at some point they'll probably do it again, and I'll buy like a nice slipcase version of it, or go back and buy someone flipping one. But was really interesting reading the comments on Reddit. There's a few blogs too where they compare the colors to the black and white, and it's interesting to get people's thoughts on it. And honestly, I'd be curious, like how many of you prefer black and white comics over color, since that's what we're talking about today. Do you like black and white comics? Would you collect them? Would you buy them? Some people won't. They like color. And look, I met a guy just recently who's a big comic book fan, and it's always exciting when you meet someone that you don't know that's into comics. And I go, do you buy them more for the writer or the art? And he said the writer, and it didn't surprise me. That's not rare at all. My patrons know that. I've gone over this before. Told them. This is such a great panel. Again, that zip pattern. I almost feel like I have some Zipatone that's similar to that. It was from Richard Bennett, funny enough, or that era of Wildstorm. I'll say it might not have literally been his, but it was floating around Wildstorm at the time. Man, this is so great. This is an awesome panel too. Fuck, man, that is so cool. And this is great too. This is a great page. I love this. I can't remember if the video went up. I've shot a few videos this week that I haven't uploaded that probably will never get uploaded. But one I was talking about, stuff like this sometimes will remind me of like Half-Life or Half-Life 2. Oh, this is so cool. This is nice too. But look, and here's the deal. Here's a really good application of that gray tone. Now, if there was no gray tone on it, I think I could probably remove a little bit of it. This wouldn't have the same mood. You could render it and kind of shade it down. I did a story for, I was going to say Heavy Metal Magazine. I drew, well, it was for Heavy Metal, but it was for Megadeth. I did, I don't know, it was like a 12-page story, kind of like Heavy Metal, the movie. Each person got a song, and you had a story based on the song that you did. So my song was this, we did a really creepy, like Stanley Kubrick, 2001 Space Odyssey, like horror story. But I did a scene that was similar to this. The hallway went back further, but I did it all with hatching. But you try to hatch something to gray with this much gray, it can look overly busy and not in a good way. So it's sometimes the stuff actually comes to the rescue, and you can still put some hatching. It's not a lazy technique. It actually looks better. That's the reality of it, is cross hatching stuff all the time to get it to turn gray. Sometimes just looks cheesy. It just looks overworked, and then it loses the impact on stuff that you want to have the hatching, where it's a texture that would benefit from it. So I was considering looking into getting ordering it. It's very, very expensive now to get screen tone, and I know you can put it on digitally, but I'm an original art guy, so I want my originals to look like what is published, so it really won't work for me. Got a rule book. Man, this is a great little drawing right here. This is so badass. And again, no shadows on the faces. You just don't see it. It's not their thing. I never put that together. I've mentioned this a few times, but there was an artist when I first got online, or the first few years that I was on the internet, had a home computer, and his name was Locke. And it's not Vince Locke, but he did a book called Shadow Gear. But I had been following him before he did Shadow Gear, and he was, I got the impression that he was a teenager that was really, really into things like Shiro, probably Otomo and stuff like that, and he was a badass. Oh my god, I remember just going like, fuck, this is like the first American guy that I've ever seen that really, really can draw manga great. And so Shadow Gear is really, really good. And then he did a book for Dreamwave, which isn't as good, called Echo. But definitely, if you're a fan of black and white, like manga style art, dude, pick up Shadow Gear. It's so good. He's on ArtStation now using his real name. I can't remember what it was. Someone actually in the comments section tracked him down for me because I'd always wondered where he went. I lost, his blog or whatever went down in like 2005, and I never saw anything from him again. And he was so good, I really wanted to see more. This is badass. This looks right out of like the Joe Johnston Star Wars sketchbooks. Just really, really cool stuff. It was funny is so I bought the Star Wars sketchbook. It's a blue book and it's all design sketches from Joe Johnston. I had that as a little kid. I was probably, I don't know, 7, 8 years old. I bought it or got it. I probably didn't pay for it. Probably my grandma bought it for me or something. But I thought it was like how to draw Star Wars. So as a 7 or 8 year old, I was copying Joe Johnston drawings, which probably was fortuitous. But yeah, it was funny. But when I got it, I was really into like cartooning books. How to draw like Preston Blair, how the Jack Ham cartooning book, and I was really into it, and I was pretty good at art as a kid. Yeah, so as a kid, I was actually studying Joe Johnston. Funny shit. I was doing master studies now. They were terrible. I remember being very impressed that he could draw stuff that wasn't at an angle like this, though, like straight up and down. Like you know, it's like as a kid, you don't realize that there's something called perspective, and you can draw stuff at angles. And so he would do cockpit drawings, and he would draw them at like these angles, and I'm like, all right, these are different. Like this is not like I can't just go straight up and down and do these. I need to have my lines at angles, and stuff needs to match up side to side, at a turned angle. So funny stuff. This is great. I had to do the last couple of issues of Crystal Planet that I drew had some stuff like this, not as detailed. I was on a bit more of a deadline and didn't have assistance, but I had to do some hangers and stuff like that. But I did them quickly. This is cool. This reminds me of something. It's funny. I can't think of what it is. What is it? Can I think of it? It's like a movie or a cartoon. It's a really cool shot. Oh. No. Oh, here's the... I love these sloping platforms. So cool. I wonder... Oh, this is a great shot right here. Damn, that is really cool. What time is it? I gotta kind of watch the clock. I need to get to work. I had one bum day this week. I had to take a car into the shop. I don't know where my phone is. And basically just was at the car, like at a mechanic shop for like 4 hours. Just kind of felt like I wasted the day, but I'm back on schedule now. That stuff, like, it's funny, and I'll point this out to people that like when you're learning to draw and you take breaks, not 4-hour breaks, but it still gives me a little bit of an anxiety vibe, because I've experienced it where I haven't been able to draw for like months or years, because when I was inking, if I signed up for a book and I had a year on a job, I might not draw for a year on my own, and inking does not help your penciling. Say it over and over again. It's like there's inkers that can draw, but inking for a living does not improve your penciling skills. Very minimally at best, because they're completely different abilities. Has nothing to do with layout, has nothing to do with setting up perspective on a blank page. It has nothing to do with form, lighting form, choosing, making all the decisions. It's just they're completely different skills. Period. I'm telling you, this is fucking awesome. I don't even remember this shot, but this is badass. Man, that is so kick-ass. Fuck yeah. God, that is so cool. Oh, man. Wow. Yep. Blasterkid is gonna be like this kind of stuff, man. You guys are gonna love it. Love it. I got it all worked out. Just took me years to get my skills to the level where I could draw the shit that I wanted to do. That's all. But we're there now. We are there, actually. I'm very, very confident in my drawing ability now. It's pretty awesome, honestly. And I will improve. That's the exciting thing for me, is I'm literally, like, barely creeping up to 2 years. Wait and see. Okay, all right, dude, that was so fun. Oh my god, I loved it. I could have done 3 times that amount of material, but I really do need to get to work. But who knows? Maybe next. Well, I don't know. Well, I'll be back tomorrow with another video. But I want to do more black and white art. I'm kind of digging seeing it. So, all right, you guys have a great day. Everyone that's interested in drawing, try to put in a little time today on your work. You will not regret it. As I always say, if you dream of drawing comic books and you really, really want to do it, that passion will not go away. And so, as I gave advice to a person that worked in production at Wildstorm one time, you can do the hard work now, or you can do it 10 or 15 years from now. But it's like, if you really want to achieve that goal, you're just gonna have to take your lumps and work through all the challenges that are before you. But you can do it. You can do it if you really, really want it. So, all right, you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.